10 things that happen when I quit drinking. These are going to surprise you, especially since the fact that Terry and I have both been sober for about 7 years. And the things that happened when we quit drinking were kind of different. And I think you're going to learn a lot here because a lot of people go into sobriety expecting a certain outcome. I know some people say, hey, you know what? When I get sober, I'm going to get rich and I'm going to get all kinds of money, even if it's fake money just used for the video. I'm going to get this. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to repair my relationships. I'm going to be able to conquer the world. I'm going to start a real estate empire. And we have all these ideas of what's going to happen when we get sober, but sometimes our expectations are not met, but we get a hidden gem of something we didn't expect. And that's what we're here to talk about today is the 10 things that happened when we got sober, the 10 things that are happening now that we've been sober for over 7 years each, and exactly what we do on a day-to-day basis to get and stay sober constantly. So Terry, how you doing today?
I'm doing really well. It's a beautiful day. They're putting the final layer on my street outside after like a month of tearing it up and all that.
That has been about a month. Ours was done the next day.
They dug it all the way down. It's pretty amazing watching the process.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think ours just kind of like spray painted it or something. I don't know.
Anyways, the 10 things. Well, what Marcus was saying about our ideas when we're trying to get sober and our ideas on what life's going to be like when we finally get sober and stay sober. Man, I do not need to expand on that at all. That's exactly what I thought was going to happen. Get rich, get famous. Life's going to be great. I'm going to build a real estate empire. I'm going to get the greatest job in the world. All that stuff I thought would happen. And did any of it happen? No, not really. But, life's pretty good, though. It's still much better being sober than it was when I was drinking. I mean, my worst day sober is better than my best day drunk, that's for sure. But let me get into those 10 things that happened when I got sober first. And I'll go over them pretty quick so that we can dig a little deeper into some of these things. And Marcus is definitely going to have some different takes on maybe some of them and some of his own as well. But for me, the number one thing that happened to me was my anxiety level went way down. And that was just because, I no longer had to have that drink. Alcohol no longer ruled my life. Now, a lot of people, I know this doesn't happen with it. Their cravings keep going right after they stop drinking. That last time I stopped drinking, my cravings, they kind of went away. I mean, they were still there a little bit, but I didn't have any huge cravings or anything like that. So that insanity of building my life and building everything that I was going to do around the fact that I needed to make sure I had alcohol was gone. And that just brought my anxiety levels way down. Plus, I had driven most everybody out of my life. So, that's not a very good thing to do. But at the same time, I didn't have anybody that was bringing stress into my life. So there was one little good thing about that. But, that's the first one. The next thing was physically I started to get healthier. And, that was just taking all that sugar and the alcohol out of my system. Now, I grant you, I was still really messed up. I was I had the high blood pressure. I had pre-diabetes. I was 50 pounds heavier than I am now. I would get dizzy if I bent over and picked something up off the ground and stood back up too quick. I'd have all those issues. I was winded going up hills, all that stuff. But my physical health started to get better. And it slowly got a lot better. And, now I think I'm in pretty good health. And it took a few years to start to get in that right direction. But, along the same lines as that, I became physically aware of my body. When I was drinking, I did some crazy things, and I worked out. I exercised a lot when I drank, and I drank, exercise at the same time. I mean, it was just pure insanity. But when I was drinking, I just kept doing these things. I thought in the back of my mind, someday I'm going to just explode because I'm just burning the candle at both ends, and that's exactly what I was doing, and that's kind of what happened to me. Ended up in the hospital, and when I got sober, I started to learn to take it easy. when my body's tired, when my back hurts, when something's going wrong, take it easy. If I need to, go to the doctor. I learned to be physically aware of myself and aware of my body and what I needed to do to get better. And sometimes that's just resting. And that's what I learned to do. Another one, and this I see this question a lot, is when is my sleep going to get better? And for me, it took a month, couple months for my sleep to get better. When I first got sober, sleep was just terrible. It was horrible sleep. I couldn't sleep more than a couple hours before I'd wake up. But same thing as the last thing I was just talking about, the physically aware. I just paid attention during the day. And fortunately, I was in a situation where I could take a nap. And that's what I did. I'd take a nap, and if I wasn't able to sleep, I'd just rest. That was a big thing. The sleep does come back, and it does get better. Um, the next one is life got simple. That I'd already alluded to the fact that I drove most everybody out of my life, but purposefully I made things simple. I did not invite that drama into my life. I stayed out of the drinking establishments. I stayed away from those parties that all my friends were throwing that I'd get invited to. And I stayed away from them, especially in those first few months, that first year. That's what I did. I had to stay away from dangerous situations so that I wouldn't get these complicated thoughts and these cravings and things like that. I just concentrated on sobriety. That was my number one thing I did, was concentrate on sobriety. And that made things really simple. Don't drink, and do whatever I can to not drink, like other activities, exercise, going hanging around with other sober alcoholics, things like that. And that helped a lot. The next one was that sanity came back. Well, sort of. I don't know if I'm sane now or not, but I think I'm pretty sane. But at least one thing I know for sure is I didn't do some of those insane things that I did before. I remember back, let's see, a couple years, maybe a year or two before I got sober, I was going to do this big, long bike ride. And I trained for it. Physically, I was, I don't know, sort of able and okay to do it, but I was drinking every day and constantly through the day. But muscle-wise, I was in shape enough to do the ride. At 62, I was going to do a 100-miler, and I started this ride, and I hadn't drank that morning, so I was shaking, and I couldn't control the bike. So I let my friends go, and I'm like, there's something wrong with my bike. And I went back and I filled the water bottle full of vodka. And then I was fine. I did 62 miles that day instead, but that's just insanity. And I don't make stupid decisions like that anymore. I make I try not to make those stupid decisions anymore. That's what I try not to do. But that was another one. Here's a big one, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, is I don't do those dumb things anymore that I did the night before, or not remember the night before. And that would be that. This is the sixth thing. But I don't have regrets for what I did the night before, or if I did do something wrong to somebody, I take care of it. If I did something last night, I'm going to take care of it today. I'm going to call them up and apologize, or whatever I need to do. But I don't have those big regrets, or what did I do last night? I don't remember what happened, or where's my car, or things like that. I remember what happened last night. Last night was a nice mellow night. I watched a little TV and hung out with the family, and it was pretty cool. And life is much better than it was. And all these things are really the case today that I'm talking about. They're just a little bit more. But what I've learned a lot, and this would be the next thing, is I've learned how to deal with life. I take life as it comes now. And I worry about what I can worry about, or what I can control. And that's what I deal with now. There's a lot of things in this world which, well, most of this world I can't control. And I try to let that go. Take care of what I can do today. And back when I was drinking, I wanted to change the world, to change other people's opinions, and I wanted people to do what I wanted them to do so that I would be comfortable. And that didn't work. That raise that anxiety level. And nowadays, I don't deal with that stuff anymore. I just take it easy and, go through life as it comes. And yeah, bad things happen. That's true. But at least now I can deal with them sober. When I was drunk, my answer was to go get another drink. And that didn't deal with those problems. That just pushed them down the road. Next one is I became pretty much happy, well, at least content in life. And this, for me, now this doesn't happen with a lot of people that get sober in that early sobriety, but for me, I was pretty happy to be sober. I was so glad to be through with that, with the detox and the fact that I didn't need to take another drink. I didn't have to deal with all that insanity, and I was slowly starting to get into better shape and all that, so it was helping my self-esteem. And that really helped with the happiness. I also learned some tools, which was wake up every morning, think about what I'm grateful for, what's going good in my life, or what's good about the world, to not stop focusing on the negative stuff. Turn off Facebook, things like that, to just try to be a good person. And that made me happy. It made me content. And that's where I am now. My happiness has really grown throughout my sobriety, and that's because I don't drink and I've learned a new way to live life. And that's huge. That's the biggest thing. If I wasn't happy in sobriety, I don't know if I'd be sober today or alive for that matter. But it's super important for me to be grateful and to at least try to be happy and look at the positive thing in life. And then, the last thing on my list, there's many more things that have changed in my life, but this one's super important, which is friends and family. They came back into my life. I drove them all out of my life. It was me that drove them out of my life. When I was drinking, I was thinking that they left me. I was all angry about that stuff. But no, I drove them out of my life. They didn't want to be around me. I wasn't a good person to be around. Why would they want to hang out with me? And they've come back. Even those old drinking friends, they're still friends now. I don't hang out with most of them anymore, but we see each other or text or email or whatever. We're still in good standing. And yes, I have lost a couple of those friends, and that's how life goes. People move on, and that's okay. The family's back, and they're proud of what I've done, and I can help them out when I need to help them. But those are just some of the things, and nowadays, all those things are just there. It's even better. Sobriety is an awesome thing, and some things aren't as great as as I thought they would be. Sure, I'm not the rich, powerful. I don't think I want to be famous, but the rich, powerful person that I was thinking I would be. That's okay. It's all right. Life's good, just the way it is right now. I had this friend that posted that she posts these things, and she says she asks these philosophical questions for people to answer, and she's a relationship counselor, so she just kind of asks questions like that, not necessarily relationships, but she said, "What's your favorite place in the world to be?" And all these people were saying, Maui, the Trinidad, whatever, these beautiful places, the mountains, Lake Tahoe, there was all these answers. And I thought about it deep. And I'm like, my favorite place is my home with my family. It really is. And that's because I've built a life in sobriety that I don't have to run from. And that's huge for me. And so with that, there's my list.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think there are some differences there. We'll go through a couple of those and talk about some of the things that happened when I got sober. Because it's funny, what I thought was going to happen and what actually happened are two completely different things. And I'm going to move these a little bit so I'm getting an echo. Two different things. I thought, like Terry, I'm going to get rich and famous and everything like that. And I was a pretty driven business person when I was drinking, and I'm still a pretty driven business person now, but I've learned to take things in stride. For example, last week we had an issue in the business that just kind of like bottlenecked everything. We were going through a growth period, and whenever you go through growth periods, there's always something that bottlenecks it because you don't see everything that you should see. And we got bottlenecked in a certain thing, and it really overwhelmed me and stressed me out. And I remember thinking back on what those times were like when I drank, because I would literally go and get, a 36 pack of beers and some tall liquor, and I'd take that, and that would be like my suitcase for the night to figure out the problem. Only the problem was nothing got figured out. I just got drunk and forgot about it. And things would pile up and pile up until eventually, like Terry said, it felt like I was on the edge, and any minute I was going to pop. The candle was burning at both ends, but I wasn't getting the value that burning a candle at both ends brings. Like, now I look at it and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of like burning the candle on 5 ends right now. I'm trying to run my other business, doing the Talk Sober business, dealing with family issues, a lot of stuff going on. And I can honestly look at that and say, that is, okay, are we getting an echo? We are getting an echo. Why are we getting an echo?
And I don't hear one.
Okay. I heard one. I don't know. Is it only on my voice?
We have an echo.
It's all good now?
Al says all good now.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I look at burning the candle on both ends, where I like what I'm doing now because I am, going through a lot. I'm dealing with a lot. But also, it's a labor of love. It's stuff that I like to do, and it's stuff that I can calm down with, and things I can just kind of take in stride. And one of the things that Terry brought up in the beginning was the anxiety thing. And I know this is the one he thought was going to be very different, because for Terry, he got sober and the anxiety dropped. For me, I got sober and the anxiety went through the freaking roof. I mean, it was like level 10 all day, every day, craziness. Anxiety was just all the time crazy. And the reason was because alcohol had been my solution to the anxiety problem. And then when I took that away, the solution that quote unquote worked, we'll use the term worked loosely, because it wasn't really working. It was just kicking the can down the road and making me feel better for a time, like literally like 15 minutes at a time. And what I noticed was anxiety got worse, but I learned how to deal with it. Like Terry said, in the beginning, a lot of people ask, what's it like? What's with the sleep situation? You can't get to sleep because you used to drink yourself to sleep. Well, one of the secrets that no one talks about is part of the reason alcoholics go crazy. And by the way, if you are thinking about getting sober, go to the doctor. Detox can be deadly. Me and Terry are not doctors. We can't tell you anything about detox. If you're thinking about quitting, go to the doctor. But one of the things that people don't talk about is the fact that alcoholic insanity is induced not only by the delusions that you get when you're drinking, but also by the lack of sleep. An alcoholic never really sleeps, and you guys all know this to be true because you wake up in the middle of the night. You have, times where you have to drink yourself back to sleep, and it's really, really crazy. And so we have to understand that these are the things that our body is repairing. And now that I'm 7 years sober, I sleep great. Unless I have 15 pots of coffee, then probably not so great. But for the most part, I sleep really good. And I also learned that sometimes you're just excited and you can't sleep. So you lay there and you listen to a talk, and it's okay. I used to have to fight everything. And it's very interesting when you look at people who fight life versus people who join the dance. I used to fight life. I had my boxing gloves on. I was ready to take whatever life threw at me, whatever was happening to me. And, I looked at it as life was happening to me, right? Like 10 years ago, all the health stuff that shut down the entire world economy for a while, I would have looked at it as something that happened to me. How's this? This is my business I got to deal with. This is my stuff. It's like, no, it happened to the whole world. But I was selfish, and I looked at it as things that happened to me. And we have to look at that and understand exactly what's going on and learn to live a new way. And it is really like learning to live again. And that's what I've learned in my 7 years of sobriety. The 10 things that I learned, the 10 things that happened, was that I was forced to learn to live life on life's terms. I was forced to be less self-centered and less world is happening to me, things are happening to me. And I learned to be more accepting of everything the way it is, right? And like Karen says, there's no elevators, you have to take the steps. Exactly, and you have to look at every step as it comes. What am I doing in my life today? What's happening right now? How can I take a step back? And taking a step back and pausing in life is one of the most important things you'll ever learn because of the fact that we have to stop. You can't just keep going and going and going and drinking and going, and even sober. You can't keep doing it. When you look at people who relapse, what they do is they ignore the little things that kept them sober. They ignore the little mindsets that say this is going to be okay. Very, very important. And when we look at anxiety, there was something to be learned. Like, you could teach me about anxiety. I read books about anxiety. But something happened when I had to be anxious every day. I remember when I went to rehab. For me, I was terrified of rehab. I was like, okay, I'm going to live with 30 people, day in and day out, who want drugs and alcohol, but can't have drugs and alcohol. And there were some, rough around the edges folks there. And I'm not one for, getting in the brawls or nothing, right? And it was kind of scary. Luckily, there was no brawls or anything, and nothing too bad happened. But there was some drama, and there were some things. And I remember what it was like going through 30 days of nonstop anxiety. And I don't know what it was like for you, Terry, but it was like I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I'd be anxious. I would go to bed, I would go get breakfast, there was never a calm moment. I mean, there was a calm-ish moment, but it was anxiety 24/7. And there was something to be said for having to go through that. I can't explain it. It's like you got to go through it. You got to see what it's like to be able to do that. Same with sobriety. You're going to shock yourself. You'll realize that the things that you thought were going to take you out of sobriety in year 1 are not the same things in year 7. In year 7, you'll be like, how am I dealing with all this stuff? The hell's the matter with me? Before, I would have snapped. And it's kind of interesting because we really, really realize that we can handle a lot more than we think we can. And we were attributing all this good stuff to alcohol when actually it was bad. It's like a bad relationship, the one where the poor girl gets, yelled at or belittled, or guy or whoever gets yelled at or belittled. And they defend their person. Oh, he's not that bad. Oh, if you'd really see him for who he is, if you really understood him like I do, but he is mean to you, and he hurts you. And that's what alcohol's doing. Yet we're saying, it helps me with anxiety. Does it really? Or does it make it worse? Oh, it helps me with my depression. Yeah, I used to say that all the time. I get sad, I go drink. I turned into a bumbling mess of depressive craziness. But no, alcohol's helping me. And one of the things that I learned, and one of the things that happened when I quit drinking, is that I was able to stand up to alcohol and say, you are the problem. You're the problem. Because if anyone in the world drank as much as I drank, they'd be as drunk as me, and their life would be as messy as mine. That's just what alcohol does. That's why when you sit in a room of alcoholics, you go, wow, surprisingly, I relate to these people. I thought I was the one coming in here with my suit and tie and fancy ways. But we all kind of sound the same. Because that is what alcohol does. It doesn't treat anyone different. It's a chemically altered brain. That's what it does. Very important.
Yes.
So yeah, I think we got to look at that. Go ahead.
Yeah, it treats us all the same. Definitely. The problem is from what I've seen and from what I've observed with the people that I work with, the problem is the same. It's just we drink too much. We become addicted. Then the alcohol starts to rule our lives. Some will say that there's different things, like we're spiritually bankrupt and things like that. But really, the problem, it just comes down to drinking too much. And for me, that was it. And I've saw some things recently that were talking about some of the causes. And for me, the reason I drank or I became an alcoholic was I drank too much for too long. I didn't have any huge consequences. Well, I kind of did, but I don't look at those as the reasons why I became an alcoholic. It was just the fact that I drank too much for too long, and that was it. I became addicted, and now I have to do whatever I can to stay sober. And it's easier now, although I cannot get complacent at all in my sobriety. This doing these YouTube lives really helps me because I get to hear from you guys and hear some of your personal experiences, and that really helps me. It helps me see where you guys are coming from, because my mind can go into the alcoholic mindset really quickly, and I have to understand that even after 7 years, even after 20 years, after 30 years, I can go back into that alcoholic mindset. So I have to pay attention and keep sobriety up there in my priority list at the top.
Absolutely. Dave says, I relapsed yesterday, stood there in my garage and felt this big wave of dopamine flood my brain. It reduced me to tears because I knew I messed up big time, but it just felt so good. It's evil. Well,
Yeah.
I think one of the things in that statement is messed up big time. Well, have you messed up big time yet? I mean, you're here. Big time mess up to me is like you relapse and you don't see the guy for 10 years. That's a big time mess up. But if we can learn that if relapse happens, what are we going to do now? Right? Are we going to wallow in it? Are we going to keep on going? Or are we going to step up and say, hey, whatever, water under the bridge, let's keep going? Because you didn't lose all the education and stuff you gained by getting sober. That doesn't go out the window. And I think there's a lot of stigma around relapse. There's a couple things I don't really like in the recovery community. One is that relapse is part of recovery. First of all, that's like giving everyone a big excuse to relapse. And, oh, hey, hey, buddy, we just relapsed, You could go sit at the bar, and if you accidentally drink, well, here's an idea. Don't sit at the bar. Problem solved. Can't get drunk if there's no alcohol. But the second thing, because I believe that relapse doesn't have to be part of recovery. The second thing is that we got to look at it and say, well, what are we going to do now? Like I have to start over again. No, you don't. You just stop drinking. And you realize, because he says I'm hungover and I'm regretting it big time. First of all, realize if you relapse, chemicals have entered your brain and changed the way you think. This is why I don't drink. I don't drink because I know those chemicals will alter my brain. Will it feel good if I drink today? It probably would. Probably feel great for a time. But then it's going to tweak my brain enough to where I'm not going to know which way is up, and I don't know if I'll be able to make it out of the relapse. I don't know. So I'm not going to mess around with it. Second thing is to realize that when you're hungover, I know a lot of people, the comments tell me that some of the people who watch us are less than sober sometimes. And we have to realize that when you're chemically altered, all bets are off. Sleep it off, do what you got to do, don't drink, get through it. Right? You're hungover. Everyone feels like crap when they're hungover. Everyone wallows in self-pity when they're hungover. You're not special. It's just what chemicals do. Right? So if we understand that, then we realize that relapse doesn't have to be part of recovery. And relapse is about damage control. That's it. You have a sip. You say, now it's time for damage control. What can I do? You get drunk the night before, you wake up and you're like, what did I do? Damage control. How do I not drink more? That's the key. And when we understand that, I think Dave did a good job. He did damage control. He's on here saying, hey guys, what do I do? What do I do? Let's minimize this. Terry's got lots of friends he talks about in the recovery community, and they go out and you don't see him again. It's like, where's old Tom? Tom was sober 20 years. I haven't seen him in 6 months. Where'd he go? Right, he didn't have his hip replaced, so I know he's not at the doctor. He's out there getting drunk. And damage control is the least important thing on his mind because now he's in the midst of it. And I don't know about you, but I don't know if I have another full-on rager in me left. Because I don't know where it's going to lead me. I don't know what happens when you take my mind and you tweak it and all bets are off. Right? Very, very important to look at it.
Yes. Yeah, I see lots of people, well, I don't see lots of people go out. I just don't see them. And many, especially through the pandemic, I haven't seen a lot of people. There's people that I don't even remember until I see them come back in the rooms and they're like, yep, I started drinking again and it was horrible. And I just saw a guy just recently, and He had spent 15 years building his life back up in sobriety, and that he had destroyed before with drugs and alcohol. But he spent 15 years getting it all back, and he got it all back, and he got complacent, and pandemic hit and didn't know what to do. So he started doing all that stuff again, and he's back, and he's back. He thinks he's back at square one, just like Marcus was saying that a lot of us think we're back at square one, but he's not. He has a lot of knowledge. He had a lot of sobriety. He knew what worked for him before. Does he need to step it up this time and do even more? Well, maybe. And for was it Dave? Was it Dave? I think. And Dave, maybe that's what you need to do as well. You had 3 months. Maybe you need to step it up even more, and get more involved and hang out with the sober alcoholics. Maybe there's something that I talked about that I do for my sobriety that you're not doing, and maybe you need to try something else, or try something more is what I should say. When I got sober, when I finally was able to get some lasting sobriety, I did everything I could. I kept on thinking, I have to do more, I have to do more, I have to do more, and I thought that for a second. I'm like, yeah, I have to do more. I mean, it'd be easy to take that drink right now, but not for the long run. It is so difficult to stay drunk. Dang, that's a lot of work, man. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that anymore. And that was terrible having to do that. But yeah.
And for those just tuning in, this is the part of the show where we have our commercial. If you guys want to support and keep us on the air or the internet or whatever this is called, on the thing here, right? You can go over to talksober.com, click the big yellow button to join our recovery class. We have a full-on class with 30 letters, 30 PDFs, 30 videos, 30 audios, all kinds of cool stuff to help you get and stay sober. And in addition to getting all that good stuff that's going to help you understand the mindset of getting and stay sober that has helped Terry and I, you're also going to support the show here, which is cool. Now, this is a $27 a month. You can cancel whenever you want. It's literally less than the price of a cheap domestic beer a day, which is like, it'll save you some money. There you go. But there you go. You're going to look at that. You can click on the yellow button and sign up there. You'll get instant access to all the stuff that we have for you. Let me see if I can log in and show you what that does look like here, because it's pretty good stuff. All kinds of things. This is based on our combined 14 years of sobriety, actually 15 years now, where you go through, you watch the welcome video, you get these little contracts and printables you can use, relapse prevention guide, download your progress guide, and then you go through this. You can go through it 30 days in a row. You skip around, whatever you want. I would say go through it in a row. I think it'll really help you. And then when you're done, go through it again and join the community in there and talk about sobriety and all kinds of cool stuff like that. That does help support the channel, help us keep going. One of our goals is we want to do this more full-time. I know Terry wants to do this full-time as well, and we want to get it kind of rocking and rolling. So, awesome stuff. If you want to support the channel, go there. You can also get a private one-on-one call with Terry and me, which is pretty cool. You just go here, you sign up, and you schedule the call, and we'll be there. I think we have one at 4:30 today with someone. So, pretty cool. We found those to be pretty good. And whatever you do is used to keep us on the air and keep this stuff rocking and rolling. So, there you go.
Right on. Melissa says COVID has not helped alcoholics and addicts. And yeah, in some cases I would agree with you. But also, I've seen how it has helped people. It has helped people focus on their sobriety more. Some for me, it made me take a step back. It also made me think about sobriety. Remember when we first locked down, it's like all of a sudden you can't go see people, you can't do anything. Okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do to stay sober? That was my thought process. Not I'm bored and I can't do anything, so I'm just going to sit here and be miserable. I tried to think proactively. So I can still go hiking. I can still get on my bicycle. I thought all those things. Okay, I'll do that. I can call people. And I hate talking on the phone, man, but I did it because it's what I needed to do. I need to stay sober. We kept doing these webinars here, and because I need to stay sober. Try to do whatever I could. Try to look at what we can do. You know, in fact, one step further than that is what do I get to do today? And you know, sobriety has allowed me to get to do a lot of things. Because if I didn't get sober, I wouldn't be doing anything. I'd be 6 feet under. So I get everything I do now. I get to do it because I'm sober, and that's a really great attitude from what I see is I get to do things.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you think about it, rehab's pretty expensive, but it's definitely, I'm glad I went, but I know some people can't get in or can't afford it or whatever. Get you, I don't know, get you 4 calls with us a month and go through the course if you can. Obviously, it's not a substitute for rehab. We are not doctors. We are not fancy pants people. We're just 2 guys who got sober, and I didn't think I could get sober. I had no idea I'd be where I was today. I thought my life was over. I thought everything was going downhill, and you know, I had to learn, I had to do it, and that's what's there. And if you got that, I mean, that would be actually pretty cool. Maybe we'll make a little button for that. Like, you want to call a week for the first month or something. Maybe we'll have like a special. Would you guys be interested in that? Or maybe we'll do like a group call with like 5 people or something. I don't know. What are you guys interested in? We'll make a link
Yeah,
for
let
it
us
and
know.
get you set up. Because we want to help you guys, and we want to keep this stuff going and everything, which is pretty cool. Okay.
Well, earlier Al was mentioning that sobriety is his top priority, basically his top priority. I'm not reading it right now, so I don't know exactly what you said, but that your wife completely supports you. She understands that you have to put sobriety number one, and because of that, you get to help her. I mean, these are some of the benefits that we get in sobriety. And me being sober, I was able to help my parents in their last days, and that was huge. Man, I wouldn't have been there if I was drinking. That's for sure.
It's actually interesting. A lot of you guys know the situation with my dad, and I mean, he's doing a lot better from what I understand. But again, I'm not a doctor in any sense of the word, so I just go with what people tell me. But before I got sober in 2013, I had flown down to Phoenix to drive. My dad came from LA to Phoenix to meet me in his motorhome, because this guy, he doesn't fly anywhere. He just motorhomes everywhere. Like, if he could motorhome to Australia, he probably would. He'd put some pontoons on it or something. I don't know how that works. But he motorhomes everywhere. And I remember in 2013, he called me, and I was in the midst of my drunken craziness. I was a mess. And he's like, you want to go on the motorhome with me? Your grandpa's passing. I think this is the last time you're going to see him. And I was pretty liquored up. I think I was kicked out of the Phoenix airport. I don't remember. I think it was either kicked out or it closed. I don't know. But I remember I drank a lot, and somehow I was asleep outside on the curb waiting for them to get me. And from that point on, the trip was just a mess. I was drunk every day except for the day of my grandpa's funeral. And it was just alcoholic hell. And I look at it now, and I get to do the same thing for my dad. Sometime soon, we're going to go in the RV from LA to Alabama to drive him out there so he could see his family and stuff. Hopefully, Dad's got a lot of time left. I don't know. It could be, who knows. And it's interesting looking at the parallel, looking at what I can do being sober. I could cook. I can drive the RV without driving it off a cliff. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not the greatest driver, even sober, especially when you're driving a house. I've never driven a house before. But being sober is such a gift to you and the people around you, because it gives you the person that you probably always were. You probably did care about people. You probably did care about different things in life. You probably did want to help people. You probably do like life. But alcohol lied to you. And it lied to me. It said, get in the RV and, your grandpa's passing. It didn't say, well, that's kind of what happens with life. Everything happens. But no, it was happening to me. No, it happened to our whole family. But I was so self-absorbed I couldn't look at it. This time around, I get to go and I get to be sober and I get to help and understand and cherish the time that we have together, which is the greatest gift. I mean, I drank that shit away thinking that, oh, I need to push these emotions down. These emotions are part of life. They're what makes us us. Now, do we have to flip out and be crazy? No. I've learned a lot from Stoic philosophy that says, you don't have to be a complete Stoic, like stand there and nothing phases you. I can feel things, but I don't have to, get bent out of shape and try to smash them down. But yeah, interesting story. We almost got put in jail around Texas. But luckily, I don't know what it is with my family. Like, yeah, they make it through crazy things. And a lot of addicts in my family, a lot of alcoholics in my family. And you look at it and it's a big issue. And if you can learn how to live sober, that's the greatest gift you could ever have. It's like a miracle. It's like, how did this happen? I didn't choose it. I didn't consciously say this was going to happen. I was like, okay, I'm not going to drink today, because if I drink today, yesterday I almost died. So today I kind of like not death. Like that was my goal. I'm like, hey, if we can make it through today alive and not drunk, that's good. And then a couple months went by and I'm like, I'm actually enjoying this. Actually like life. Actually want to be here. Actually want to live and do the things I can do, which is really, really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Low Life, you said I want to be like these guys sober. Well, hey, that's the first thing. You got the first thing you want to be. You want to be sober. The next thing is you got to take some action. So you got the willingness right now, but you got to take action. And for me, that was one of the big things, was I wanted to be sober as well. I wanted, and that just kept going and going and going until I did something about it, until I decided to take that help. And that was the hardest thing to do, to go to the doctor, get into a rehab. Well, the first time I got sober, I didn't do a rehab, but people are talking about rehab as well, and rehab's great. They'll help you safely detox, but go see a doctor. Don't have to do a rehab to get sober.
Absolutely. And Sober Car says, glad you guys are still putting out videos. You guys helped me in my recovery 20 months ago when I just started getting sober. Here I am 20 months sober. You guys rock. And it looks like he's got some interesting videos there. Don't know what they're about, but there's like golf carts and castles, and I think he drives around sober. Something like that. Looks pretty cool.
Oh, which one was that? I'm sorry, I was reading.
Sober Car Camping Adventurer.
Oh, right on.
He's got really good, it looks like he's got really good like cinematography going on.
Cool.
So maybe a couple things I can learn from him, but yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I camp in my trailer, but I love camping. Sometimes people just go camping to get drunk. So, but I've kind of gotten away from the camping at the big group sites and stuff like that. More get to the places where we're all by ourselves. So a little bit more relaxing and nice. That's one of my hobbies. Somebody else mentioned up here, I think it was Grim Reaper, or was it somebody was talking about hobbies. There it is. Another thing that helped me is a hobby that keeps changing, and got into model trains. Spending booze money on that feels way better, LOL. Yeah, absolutely. I had a model train, so I gave it to my brother because he's at the model trains. But my hobbies are, as I've said a million times on these things, walking the dog and hanging out with my family and going on bicycling rides. And now it's working on that trailer half the time, but fixing up the house, things like that. And yeah, hobbies are a huge way to stay away from that drink. Of course, I used to drink while I was doing all those same hobbies, but I don't need to. I don't need to anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome stuff. And if you guys do want to support the channel, again, check out talksober.com. Click the big yellow button here. It'll take you to the sign-up page. You can go through and... what is it? I think you go through... Yeah, here you go. You sign up here. It'll give you instant access, all kinds of cool stuff. This channel, surprisingly, has helped a lot of people get and stay sober. We've been hearing a lot of good stuff recently about people that are just like, hey, I'm learning stuff, which is good. That's what it's about. You can also get a call with us, which is pretty cool. You can get a private call, $97 one time, or get as many as you want. I think you can add more. I don't know how the shopping cart works, but it's pretty cool. So awesome stuff, guys. If you got any questions, let us know. And yeah, cool. And Sober Car, are you still here with us? If you are, you could say something and they can go check out your stuff too. It looks good. Although there is one video he's got about leaf peeping. I don't know what that is. That kind of it sounds weird. I think it might be a camping thing. But I like to camp in hotels, if that counts. I don't think it counts, but
It's a bit more expensive.
It is
Less
a little
work,
bit.
though.
Yeah, it is less work. Yeah, yep. And then you don't have to clean anything. I don't like cleaning anything.
Yeah, well, that's true. When you got the trailer, you are the plumber and the electrician and the mechanic and everything, and you have to know all that stuff.
And I don't, and I got an RV trip coming up. So luckily, my uncle's going to be there, who is like, he was a long haul truck driver. So I'm like, can you drive, please? Because I don't know how to drive houses. And so luckily they know how to do all that stuff. So my job is the chef. I'm like, I can do that. I can cook.
Perfect.
That's what we'll do. So there we go. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Yeah.
That the story that Marcus was talking about, his first RV trip when he was still drinking, it is in one of the letters, and there's a really good message that goes along with it in our program.
Which, do you remember which letter that was? I can kind of show them what it looks like. Yeah, once you get in there, I think, let's see, Sober Journey.
It's in the 20s, Marcus, but I forgot which one it is.
Okay. That one guy. Oh, maybe it's Old Wine, News Wineskins. That's an interesting one.
Anyways,
Melissa,
a couple of those letters in the 20s aren't quite finished yet. We want to make sure they're right for you guys. But it's a good program.
Yeah, you just go through, you can read the letter. There's letters, there's a video, exercises, all kinds of cool stuff. And you can see the letters. You can print them out, keep them in a binder, take notes, underline them. I'm actually turning them into a book when I'm done, but I am the world's best procrastinator. So I'm trying to do them, but I do want to be perfect. Melissa says, and again, if you want that, talksober.com, yellow button, sign up. Melissa says, I'm having a hard time plugging back into life. Take it slow. Yeah, just plug in slow. Take it easy. Learn to live again. Enjoy the process. Yeah, I think that's the best advice, is just really, really take it slow.
Yeah, Melissa, what Marcus said is so true, taking it slow. I was happy to not plug back into a life when I first got sober. I just took things so unbelievably slow. I didn't worry about it. Some of us don't get that luxury of not being able to plug into life, or not wanting to, or whatever, because we have to, make a living and get things going, or we have kids or whatever, but we can take it slow. Try to take it simple. I think it's super important when you're first in sobriety is to take things as slowly as you possibly can, and just try to keep things simple. Try not to bring in that drama in life. Try not to have too much on your plate. Look at each day, just you hear it all the time, one day at a time, and there's different ways to take that. But as far as plugging back into life, that one day at a time is, okay, what do I absolutely have to get done today? And then what can I put off for tomorrow? And then what can I control today? That's huge. What can I control of those things that I have to do today? What do I have control over? What don't I have control over? Separate those things out. Try to let go of those things that you don't have to do today. Try not to worry about them. It's a hard thing to do, but just deal with what you can today. Then tomorrow, those things were done the day before, and then you can start to look at the next day. that's one way to look at that, one day at a time. It's just tiny little steps. It was mentioned before. Actually, I believe she was referring to the steps of AA, but either way, life is a bunch of steps. Going nice and slow, take it easy. I think that's huge. And for me, nowadays, it's the same thing. I have 7 years plus of sobriety, and I still don't try to put too much on my plate at once. And sometimes I don't put enough on my plate. Marcus and I are competing in the procrastination race, but it's that one step at a time thing, and that for me that works.
Absolutely. All right, guys, I think that about wraps up our show for today, unless there's any pressing questions you see in there, Terry. Anything?
Well, I was just talking, so I wasn't reading.
Supposed to multitask.
I can't
here.
read and talk at the same time. Well, it's this last one. Yeah. In response, Dan, and I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name right, but getting used to the highs not being as high, maybe Melissa. So yeah, I think what I take that as is, for me, when I was drinking, I had really high highs and really low lows. And now that I'm sober, I don't get those super high highs and the super low lows anymore. It's a lot more in the middle. Now, is it just an even straight line? No, not at all. I still have happiness, still have sorrow. It all still happens, but it's not nearly to the extreme or as often as it used to be. And sometimes that happens, or that usually happens when we get sober, is that just those peaks and valleys lessen a little bit. And for me, that's okay, because my baseline was down here when I was drinking. It's way up here now, as far as happiness goes and contentment, definitely.
Cool.
So,
all right.
Thank you, everybody, for coming to our show today. Appreciate it.
Melissa, sure, that's fine. Yeah,
And
no problem.
Joya, if you're not in our Facebook group, it's Talk Sober, you can join our Facebook group. Just send me a request and we'll approve you, and you can talk about more stuff there. Check out our program, or at least just go over to talksober.com and click a few things over there. There's some stuff you can look at.
Cool. All right, guys. See you next week. Hop over to talksober.com. Check out the resources. We'll see you next time. Stay sober. If I can find the button.